What if Martin Luther King played in the NBA? Now, before I get this video started, let's remember the great things that Martin Luther King did for our world. His impact on society is much more worth than a day. RIP to King. Now let's get this video started. Martin Luther King, born in Atlanta, Georgia, played 3 sports as a kid: basketball, baseball, and football. Now, from reading multiple articles about Martin's younger life, it is said that he never had time for sports, which makes a lot of sense considering he entered college at the ripe age of 15. But let's say he did have time. Let's say he did pick up sports. In Pacific, basketball. MLK went to a college named Morehouse. Not the best college for sports, but a great college to pursue if you targeted education. Now let's say MLK graduates when he's 22, and let's also say he pursued basketball, since at the time it was a big option for black people who couldn't afford education. MLK is one of the most dominant point guards in the country, which led to many scouts coming to the school. And let's say one of the NBA scouts are from the Milwaukee Hawks, who had just went 17 and 49. They could use a point guard, and Martin Luther King fit the mold perfectly. So the next season, the Milwaukee Hawks selected the 5'7" point guard from Morehouse State, Martin Luther King. The first game would start for the 1952 to 1953 season for the Hawks. From what we know about MLK, he definitely wouldn't be the stereotypical point guard. He was small, even at the time. But small point guards have their advantages. And for MLK, it would be his playmaking. King was a smart dude. We know this from all of his speeches and from his civil rights movements. So there's no doubt in my mind that he wouldn't be able to read the 50s defense like butter. We also gotta keep in mind the Milwaukee Hawks are rebuilding, so MLK would probably be their best player for a few more years. Now, by the middle of the 1950s, Milwaukee was one of the most segregated cities in America, and the Milwaukee Hawks were still rebuilding ever since MLK got drafted. The signs were in front of him. It was time for the King to take his talents to another city. Now, if we look at the 1950s, pretty much all of America was segregated. But with some research, I was able to conclude that the best city for MLK to go to was probably Indiana. And in 1955, MLK was traded to the Fort Wayne Pistons. The Fort Wayne Pistons were a really good team, but they were missing one piece to the puzzle: a point guard. And when MLK got there, he would instantly put up great numbers. The Fort Wayne Pistons had a lot of big men, so it made perfect sense why MLK would thrive there. MLK was on a really good team, so there's no doubt that he went a few rings with the Fort Wayne Pistons. The King was a smart dude, and based on his early beliefs of fighting injustice, even when he was young, he would probably use the championship celebrations and headlines on newspapers to fight segregation and push for equality. Now we enter the 1960s, and the days of glory for the Pistons are over. In fact, it's the Washington Bullets now, and MLK's NBA career was coming to a close. It was a great career. He was an undersized point guard, even at the time, but somehow still managed to be one of the best guards in his time. And in 1963, the King retired, and it was safe to say MLK was a Hall of Famer. 2 championships on the Fort Wayne Pistons, 3 times assist leader for the league, and a cultural influence beyond basketball. MLK would retire a legend, not just in basketball, but in a country where segregation was terrorizing everything. Martin Luther King would become a civil rights movement. He would fight injustice. He would fight segregation. But most importantly, he would fight for equal rights. RIP to King.